4.1, Ordinary Turangi-Tongariro Community Board meeting, which was held on the 5th of November, the inaugural meeting there. Any points of clarification of those minutes? All pretty straightforward. David moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Mack. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Okay. Item 5.1, adoption of standing orders. We have Mrs. Tina Jakes, Democracy Manager, with us this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tina.
We did do a workshop in relation to the standing orders and the items that you needed to consider. So the first one was around the provision of an audio-visual link, whether you wanted that or not. So that's part of the resolution. And the other one was in relation to a casting vote for a chairperson. And you did ask us to find out from other councils what they did. So we did ask the question, received 15 comments back from councils, and the majority were yes to a casting vote. And then the last one is in relation to motions and whether you wanted to do those three options. Previously we were option C, which is a bit more informal in terms of speaking and moving resolutions. And then there were some minor changes to the standing orders which came through from the template from LGNZ. Okay,
well, we'll start with questions perhaps on the general thrust of the document of the standing orders, latest we have in front of us. Any questions? Councillor Body.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a number in regards of, there's probably about 10 of regards to what the document says separate to what we have to vote on. Now, whether we work through those now or get the bulk of that out of the way, I'm easy on that.
Okay, so 10 questions you want. Are they
it's
just
to do with words that have been left out or incorrect words?
Words, are they?
Yeah, not whole paragraphs. No.
Okay. Would it be a subject that we would we debate on, or okay, perhaps?
I don't think there's any need to debate them because they're not changing anything. They're just corrections that were in the.
Well, perhaps do you mind feeding those to Mrs. Jakes?
It would be very hard because I've just really got the 8.8, 15.1, 20.2, and all it would require of councillors to turn to that appropriate page and read what I'm saying.
Okay, shall we go through them now?
Up to yourself.
Yep. Okay, first one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had difficulty with the 8.1s, the whole lot of them, which I'm not over sure with at the moment. They got quite complicated. At this stage, I would be allowing them to go through, and at the next correction, we can have a closer look. If I turn now to 15.1, oh, sorry, if we go to meeting procedure number 10, page 32 or 45 of your document, it refers to meeting options to open and close. Now, some time ago in the council's room, and I remember talking specifically to Council Rankin, I was keen to see the ability for this council to allow other groups, mainly different nationalities, to either open, which would be the best one, not closing, you don't want to stick around all that time, but to open even second or third month to recognise that we're now a cultural or multicultural district. So whether that could be added in, which is not fully explained under that particular clause 10, that's really a debate for council.
15.1, sorry, Mr. Green.
So what I was going to say is I think that that's probably a matter of procedure rather than what needs to be in the standing orders, and that the standing orders does provide the ability for you to determine what you believe is appropriate to open and close the meeting. So I think that's more of a procedural thing rather than a standing orders item.
Okay. On 15.1, which is page 52 of your agenda, I just need to clarify under time limits 15.1 whether it's a new add-in, and it may not be requested, should also outline the matters that will be addressed by the speakers. That may have been in the old one. I would like clarification of that 15.1.
Any change there, Tina?
So, could you just repeat that?
Mrs. Jakes, it's in the time limits, that first para.
Yep.
The last sentence, the request should also outline the matters that will be addressed.
Yep, so that's correct. That's what we did last time.
Okay.
Gave you an idea of what the the headline was in terms of the public speakers.
Okay, thank you. The next one is 17.1, page 54 of the agenda. In the one that we're going to supersede today, it did say at least 2 working days. So in this form of petitions, it's in regards of whether you wanted in English or Maori. It doesn't add the words like the last one, at least 2 working days. So it'd be a little bit unfair if you came in 2 hours before the meeting and said this is what you want to do, when we the councillors don't have the ability to have that transaction. And that was in the old standing orders.
So the 5 working days is to help with our agenda preparation. The 2 working days would have meant that the agenda had already been circulated. So hence the 5 working days to allow that time.
This 17.1 is silent on days.
It's got 5
Is
working
it?
days there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. The next one is 20.2. It uses the word 20.2, page 57 of the agenda. It has behaviour consistent with the code of conduct, and then it starts off, no member at any meeting may act inconsistently. Is that word supposed to be inconsistent in 20.2 as a heading?
I can only see that inconsistency once there.
In 20.2, the headline states behaviour consistent with the code of conduct. The next line down says it's inconsistent, so should there be the word inconsistent in
No,
the heading?
yeah, I see what you mean. No, I think that's correct.
23.6, where are we? I'll leave that one out. 28.1. Under 28.1, I've got down here about electronics, and 29 has actually new parts. The maintaining of accurate records, that's new in this new document, isn't it? In clause 29?
So let's get to that.
Okay, that's all, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
So we'd like to go back with those 3 options.
Yep,
to
sure,
determine
sorry.
those.
Okay, so we've got all that noted. All right,
Thank you.
so the 3 options. So audio visual, sorry, Councillor Truman.
Just one more little thing, if we've got to change it now. Just when you were talking about the karakia, and what was the first one you noted? Just timatanga is spelt wrong. It should be T-I-M-A.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, audio visual link. So I was unaware of this option in standing orders, to be honest. So are people comfortable with that? Okay. Do you think it'll be the default to go into meetings?
Yes, sorry, through the chair, if you put your hand up for the role, then you
Yeah.
should be able to attend the majority of meetings. You're here to represent the community, and doing it from a phone wherever you might be, I don't think is appropriate.
Okay, how the other councillors feel about that? Councillor Kingy.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I'm happy with the provisions to remain in there. I note the officer's points in the paper around future-proofing, but I think it gives some flexibility if we are called away for duty or representation of the council in another space, and there is some matter of urgency that requires us to tap in. I think it gives us some flexibility. So my preference is it should be a last resort as opposed to a first option type thing, but I don't know how we reflect that.
Okay, Councillor Rankin. Turn your thing on, sorry.
We used this at the Wairarapa Health Board, and when people were sick, it actually worked really well. Nobody used it as a, not attending meetings. No one used it like that at all, but we had several people who had long-term illnesses, and it meant that they could keep abreast of what was happening, because your votes don't get counted, etc.
So your vote does get counted, but you don't get, not quite, yeah, correct.
Through the chair.
Yes, Councillor Williamson.
I hear what Councillor Park's saying, but I think by and large, I think most councillors would do the dance to be at a meeting wherever possible, and if there's always occasionally extraordinary circumstances, it would be a useful tool to have, especially with very important decision making.
Councillor Guy?
Yes, I think that it's an important tool, because if you're away on holiday, which I'm sure all of us will take a holiday at some point, I think it's important that we are still kept abreast of what is going on. And in today's connected world, I think it's important.
Sure. Councillor Truman?
Yeah, as someone that had to fly down from Starship to attend a meeting, I think it's important, but I would agree if it was for exceptional circumstances.
Extreme or
not just-
exceptional?
Yeah, not just.
Exceptional service, yeah. Okay, Councillor Westerman? You agree? Cool. All right, is it possible to amend the standing orders to put in extreme or exceptional circumstances? Councillor Park, would you be comfortable with that?
Oh, absolutely, Your Worship. I mean, we've been very supportive of different illnesses and family members who have had issues, and exceptional circumstances is very different from not being bothered, not being bothered to turn up.
Yeah, and how would you see that working, Tina? Would there be a resolution at the start of the meeting to accept that video link in because of the exceptional circumstances? We could do it by resolution. Yep. Yep, sure. So are councillors comfortable with the chairperson of that particular committee or whatever making that decision at the time? Yep, cool. All right, thank you. Next one, casting vote for chairpersons. So we've had a ring around, 15 councillors, was it? So we've got 6, 12, we've got an even number, haven't we? So we will, the situation might arise at some stage, yeah. It's not as if it's an odd number. So how do councillors feel? Happy? Yep. Councillor Westman?
No, I'm of the opinion that they shouldn't have the casting vote.
Okay, thank you. Any other views? Okay. I think in my 6 years I might have used it once. I just can't remember what the one AC bars was it? Spa pools. Oh, children's under 5. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Right. So we'll just probably. Should we have a show of hands on that so we can just move this resolution? Casting vote for the mayor or acting mayor at the time or whatever. Oh, mayor, isn't it? Just mayor?
It's the chair.
Chair. Mayor and chair, sorry. Mayor and chairs of the committees too. Yes? Okay, so that appears to be okay at this stage. Right, item number 3. What's this one? Sorry, Tina, again?
So this is in relation to speaking and moving motions. So you
Yes.
can get a quite complex in option A down to a little bit more informal option C, which is how we've, the council's tended to operate. And so I'd suggest that option C.
Option C is the way
the
we've been
best,
doing
yes.
it? Yep, sure. Okay, everyone happy with that? All right, the common seal will be affixed to standing orders. There we go. Obviously, you've got Councillor Body's amendments and Councillor Truman's
So
typos.
we'll make those changes
that,
and
yeah.
pop them into Diligent and on the website.
Very good. Any other questions of Mrs. Jakes?
Just while we're there,
Councillor Body?
sorry to hark back this clause 17.1, third paragraph. I need clarification because the second paragraph, I think, states about the 5 working days, but it talks about a petition, whether it's in Chinese or English, it doesn't state. It's the next paragraph down. I would have not a problem with it also including, if it's to be in another language, that 5 working days. It's silent on that. The old one was it? It said 2 working days.
Tina, did it explain 5 working days to
No,
get the
5
agenda ready?
5 working days is in the second paragraph down. Petitions must contain at least, but and that does not refer to in any other language. It's the third paragraph down that does. Also in that third paragraph down it says see standing orders 19.9 on qualified privileged. We don't have a clause 19.9 in the set of standing orders.
Can you just remind me of the page for that 17?
17's on page of the agenda 54 or 41 of the standing orders. And all I'm referring to, Your Worship, is what we had in the past. It had those two separate clauses or paragraphs.
Okay. Or perhaps, Tina, do you want to?
I probably would like to call up the old previous standing orders and just make a comparison, so
Okay, do you want
Do
to,
you want
are
to-
you okay to, it's
I
not
can
something
do
that we're
that
going to debate,
and then
is it?
come
So
back.
I think
Yep.
we move that resolution, now get that done,
Yep.
and you can just perhaps later on in the meeting clarify
Yep.
that situation. We're not going to have a debate over it, are we? We don't need to, do we, John?
well, it'll depend.
Yeah. All right, there's a recommendation. Councillor Westerman, sorry.
And I'm not too sure if this is the right place to raise it, but I would like to see in the standing orders that we revert to the historic way where the deputy mayor is elected under the amount of votes, and so the highest polling person, councillor, becomes deputy mayor.
Yes, unfortunately, that is legislated, so Mr. Jakes.
It's not under standing orders,
It's not.
Yeah.
that's under the mayoral powers to appoint, and then it's up to the mayor to decide how he wants to do that, he or she wants to do that.
And so when would that come about?
So
It's in-
central government, central government, so it's not even policy forming, is it? It's directed from
It's all-
Wellington.
So it's legislation, it's in the legislation, and it's up to each mayor, whoever that may be, after each term about whether or not they wish to do that and how they do that. And yeah, it'll be, you can't fetter that future mayoral decision making because it's provided for in the legislation.
And just, just through the chair, I attended the local government New Zealand conference with Gareth last year, and the remit was put on the floor about it returning to the former way, and it was voted down by the mayoral forum. So there is no direction from local government New Zealand to central government in favour of that.
I just mention it because I think it's unfortunate with the high polling council coming in
Yep.
that it's not recognised that that's the public's preferred
Sure.
choice.
Yeah.
But I'll leave it there.
Yep, no, fair enough. Okay, yeah, okay.
Your Worship, further clarification from Mrs. Jakes. Is there ability for the mayor to get council to exercise a vote? It's not just
Yes.
specific. to
Yes,
appointing
Mr. Greens
that-
has said that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
thank you.
All right. Okay, thank you very much, Tina. Did I have a mover for standing orders? Thank you, Councillor Truman. Seconded by Councillor Williamson. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. 5.2, proposed new public road name, Seven Oaks subdivision. Scott and Louise. Good afternoon.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. In the following of our code of conduct and the information from local government New Zealand, I attend the audit and risk committee just as a member, and I sit at the back. I'm often asked to sit at the top desk, and what this documentation states that it may be better for members that attend those meetings to sit in the public gallery, because I've always argued if you're not a member of that committee, you should not be able to speak. Otherwise, you would have put your hand up to be on that committee. That is there. Now, whether we want to adopt that or not, I don't know. But it's in the information supplied by local government.
Yeah, so standing orders adopted at this stage. So, all right, Scott and Louise, good afternoon. We have a suggested public road name out at Seven Oaks and Kinloch.
Yeah, good afternoon, councillors. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the Consents and Regulatory Manager, so guaranteed at some stage you'll spend some time talking to me about something. And Louise, on my left, is our Senior Resource Consent Planner. So just to give you some context for the road name, it's not really a planning matter. It kind of sits within our department just as a process. It's dictated as part of an Australian-New Zealand standard that we follow that road naming process, and one of our internal procedures is the fact is not just consultation with emergency services, but also consultation with the relevant iwi or hapū group that the road's going to be named within. Just while I was looking at this plan, just noticed, and it's worthwhile just mentioning the Oakleaf Lane, if you'd seen on that plan, is actually a private road. And so our process, we don't name private roads through council. That's just a matter between the developer and in their own process. So it's just that Sherwood Lane, that public road that we're looking at and assessing today.
Okay, thank you. Louise, did you want to add anything?
I'll just give you a little bit of background on the subdivision. So we granted it in February this year, and it's basically stage one of, well, there will be future stages to come, put it that way, but they haven't been consented yet or applied for. And if anyone's unfamiliar with Kinloch, it's basically on the very western side of Kinloch, at the end of Oakaya Drive. So they're extending that road up to the northwest, and yes, so we're here today looking at Sherwood Way, which is a new public road name put forward by the developer.
Yeah, and obviously there's some dissension with the name. So
yes, so I thought I'd leave it to you guys to decide. So you've got a few options there.
So can you give us an idea, and I know it's probably in the paper, the consultation with Mokai Marae, they're the affected hapu in this, or they're the hapu, so has there been no consultation at this stage with them? Or?
No, there has been consultation carried out.
Yes.
It's the feedback back from Mokai Marae that they would prefer a Māori name for the road name. And they simply haven't got the resources and time to actually give any recommended road names, unfortunately, at this stage. So that's where I've put it to the councillors to make the call whether they're happy to approve it as it is.
Has this been conversed with the developer?
Yes, they've been informed of
so they know
the agenda.
That the suggestion today
actually,
is to decline it?
Mr. Phil Riley's actually here.
Oh, sorry, Phil. Nice to see you. Okay, Phil Riley, obviously. Yeah, I think that would be great if you could, but I think Councillor Guy's just got a question beforehand.
Yes, I was just interested and wondered why a Maori name hadn't been used. One of the things that I read through the paper was the fact that obviously this Seven Oaks and was named after Holyoke's descendants, and I have noticed, living in Kinloch, that there are a number of native tree names around the other subdivisions, and just wondered why a New Zealand oak, Titoki, possibly wasn't used for that name.
Cool. Okay, thanks, Councillor Guy. I'm sure we'll get that answered shortly. So just if you could note the chairman approves Mr. Phil Riley just to have a conversation with us, unless there's any other questions from the councillors at this stage. Phil, good afternoon.
Thank
Yeah.
you. We have been undertaking quite a bit of consultation as best we can with the hapu over the course of the past year. We have had some early consultation through the consenting process. We've had them out there to do blessings before we started work. Unfortunately, with the current workload that's on their books in terms of a lot of process changes, they have had limited resources to really engage in a long in a long manner, and we've been trying to get further consultation with them since about May. That actually just happened this morning, so we're continuing our dialogue with them about their input into the development of the land. I would note that there's about another 8 or 9 stages to go. There's plenty of opportunity to continue that work with them, but with regards to stage 1, we had to make a call on what road name we would like to have to be able to get our titles through in time. There's plenty of opportunity, and we're completely open to continuing along with perhaps a blend of the historical European and the Maori history on the land with regards to future names of roads and reserves. We're talking about storybook walkways outlining the cultural history of the land, and so that's a work in progress, and I'm happy to continue doing that, but we did have to come to a decision with regards to stage 1 given the timeframes that were in place, and it wasn't appropriate for us to suggest a Maori road name without having input from the hapu to do that. I'm glad, thank you for your suggestion, because it's something I'll put on the list for the future stages, but at this point we are going down that theme of the Seven Oaks theme, but hoping to try and blend the names in the future.
So the urgency, Phil, is because titles are being granted now, or? Correct?
Well, we probably be applying for 2D3 and 2D4 in about February, so just with the timeframes of going back to council again and over this Christmas period, we would need to have a road name approved before that. Really, yeah, that's why this is first road of about 10 more to come.
When's our first meeting in February? Sorry. When's our first meeting in the new year? Would that be too late?
The difficulty is actually getting the time to consult further with the hapu, because they have very difficult time frames to try and get feedback. And we have met with them this morning and talked about the road names and talking about working together on those in future stages. And they understand that where we're at with our stage one.
Okay, councillors.
Question.
Councillor Taylor.
Through the chair, so having spoken to them this morning, what is their view on the name proposed?
I don't want to put words in their mouth, but the cultural history associated with the land goes back further than the Holyoake family, and they do feel that the Holyoake association with the land was something that they're aggrieved about, and they would prefer to see the subdivision and its road names reflecting their cultural history on the land. We are committed to our Seven Oaks branding. We've already gone down that path. We see that there's a history associated with that name, albeit a European history, and we are quite happy to work together and try and blend those two backgrounds and moving forward. But it's fair to say that they don't like the Seven Oaks name or the Sherwood Way that's been proposed.
Okay. Councillor Williamson.
Thank you. It's probably not an ideal situation, but in the past, I understand names have changed, from European to Maori, or another language. Would that be an understanding that could be taken forward?
I think it would be difficult to change a road name once it's in place, but as I say, there's another 10 roads to be named in the future of this development. So the relationship that we're developing with hapu is an ongoing thing, as you'll appreciate. Time.
You can appreciate our position, I'm sure Phil too. Louise, is that a possibility, changing a name later on, or?
It's quite a process, especially down the track when you've already addressed the future properties off that road. It has to come through full council all over again. Yep. If I can just comment on Councillor Guy's suggestion. We also, one of the first things we do when we get a road naming application is check that there's no duplications in the district because of emergency services reasons. Obviously they get confused about where to go, and I believe that there's a Tautoki Ave up in Richmond Heights, isn't there? So that would be off the table.
Councillor Mack.
Sorry, just for clarity, how long has the subdivision been going? Did you have consultations at the beginning, and did they tell their concerns then?
Subdivision was granted in February this year. We've owned the land for about probably 3 years now. It took quite a while to get through to a point where the stage 1 subdivision was granted. There has been consultation with a number of parties all through that process, and yes, they have raised the fact that the hapu have raised the fact that they would like to see their interest recognised within the development, not just in road names, but in the overall layout of the development, the recognition of the history of the site. There's a number of ways that we're talking with them about achieving that. But because we weren't able to progress to a point where there was any Maori road names were suggested, we've progressed on this path.
Councillor Kingi.
Thank you, Your Worship. Reading this paper, I obviously get some of the time constraints around the need to push forward with the project. But I think, Your Worship, only a couple of weeks ago, we met with our iwi partners around our Oruanui marae, and I appreciate that was with one lens. But I think there is a role for us to play in this, and given the fact that the hapu or the marae has not been able to provide a name, to me doesn't constitute a need to then choose another name. I think this, given the fact that we've just heard there's a comment about 10 other names that would need to be produced, I guess, for other roads, it seems to me there's a lot of other things that would need to happen. So I wonder if there's an opportunity for us as a council, and I don't know how this falls procedurally, but I'll put it out there, to have more involvement in hosting that conversation to get to a point of recognising a name that's acceptable to both groups. I just wonder if I could just put that to the floor.
Thank you, Councillor King. Good suggestion. I'm just going back to the 30th of January. You know, is there anything, Louise and Scott, we can do to facilitate the naming of this road, but not holding up the project? Or does it technically hold up the project?
So yeah, in terms of the post-subdivision approval, if there's no road, we can't grant that subdivision consent. So there's
does the road have to have a name?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
So there's definitely a hold up of titles for those property owners.
Yep.
In terms of assisting with that engagement, then there's probably some work we can do there as well. Yeah. So yeah, for sure.
Difficult question.
It's a tight time frame for everyone, and we can't.
Top side of November now, so we've got probably 2 or 3 business working weeks prior to our sabbatical. Then we've got January, but you know, it's a council decision here today. So we have a recommendation from our officers to decline this.
So yeah.
Oh,
no,
sorry.
There's no recommendation.
Either you approve it or you decline it.
Or we could lay it on the table. Councillors, up to you. Councillor Park.
Thank you. Just through the chair, while I understand Phil's position, where we have got to with our iwi partners is a pretty special place, and I just am a bit uncomfortable with going ahead with this today. And I concur with Councillor Kingy, so my preference would be for it to be tabled till January, and then see if perhaps Mr. Tahoe as well could somehow be involved in engaging with the hapu, and so we can get this over the line.
Yeah, cool. I was just thinking we do have a December meeting as well. Yeah, so
through you, Mr. Chairman, proposed recommendation 3 is that the council requires the developer to undertake further consultation with whai. Obviously, we can be a part of that as well. That then would mean that whenever the timeframes of that were, if we could make the December meeting or January or whatever, we would then bring that back to you.
Sure. Councillor Truman?
You know, it's good to see a willingness, you know, from both parties to work together. I think that's really positive, and so yeah, I would be all for that, is to delay it, but offer support if we're able to offer support to get that through. So it is. Yeah.
Phil?
More than happy to continue to work with the hapu and consult with them. I do note that we've taken since May to get a meeting today. The timeframes that they have to work under, given their resources, is challenging for them. And our project can't just stop waiting for that to happen. I would also like to table that, with the greatest of respect, this is the development that's being funded and constructed by the developers and my partners and I. We have chosen for our marketing to follow the Seven Oaks name, which is associated with the land with the Holy Oaks history. So our desire for our type of name for our development has to have some standing as well. So what I'm saying is that this is the first stage of a larger development, and the ongoing relationship building with hapu is going to take some time. And I don't believe that instructing us to go back for further consultation is going to end up in a different situation within 4 or 5, 6 weeks.
Cool. Appreciate your comments, and yeah, it's a difficult situation we find ourselves in, because we have new legislation and all that sort of thing to deal with on these matters, and you've got another 10 names to name. Wouldn't it be good to get the first one right? So I feel, I'm confident, I'm perhaps looking at Mr. Tahoe here, whether there would be an ability for some mayoral meetings with the particular associated hapu in conjunction with the developers or something like that, to see if we can come to some agreement with a way forward. There's a lot of activity out at Mokai Marae. It's a busy marae, and I can understand the resources situation, very successful commercial ventures and all sorts of things. So, the reality is they're busy people too. So, Mr. Tahoe, could strategic manager, could you tell us whether that would be a possibility, or?
I just got demoted, Your Worship.
Oh, sorry.
Look, I mean, I've worked with Phil previously in some other work, so you absolutely understand exactly the predicament he's in.
Yeah.
I think if we take direction from council, we'll look to bring together a meeting and flag the urgency. We'll take it from the direction that council wants to do it right, given our previous conversations. Many of the parties in Mokai Marae are a part of your current induction processes, so I think you can have that conversation. But as I say, I wholeheartedly understand the predicament that Phil and the team are in, noting that since settlement, things have changed in terms of the workloads upon our marae. So we'll work to support that if that's council's wish.
Okay, sure. How do the councillors feel about that? Councillor Body.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a slightly different view to yourself. This is the start, and I think Phil's mentioned another 10 street name, road names. I believe we progress with what's been put in front of us today on the understanding that we start to discuss the names for those other 10. Otherwise, in X number of months' time, we're going to be sat here going through the same thing. And it's not like every name's going to have an English name or a Maori name or whatever, but I think this is just the start, and I think it's unfair on the developers for any further delays in that street naming, because until that's done, the titles can't be issued, etc. And that's a costly exercise.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Body. Any other views around the room? I think what with Mr. Tahoe's confident speech here just earlier, that consultation could take place a little bit sooner than later. How would a amended option 3 look, that council requires the developer to undertake further consultation in conjunction with council? With support of council, urgently, or with some. Yeah. Yeah. I.e., next couple of weeks. Before the next meeting, yeah. So, did you get that, Shane? Sorry. Further urgent. In conjunction with council. The council in conjunction with the developer, perhaps. Well, no, the developer in conjunction with the council. Yeah. Yes. In conjunction or with support, or just with support from council.
Can I just have a point of clarification?
Yep.
What the intention of this consultation is trying to achieve?
Is a name.
Yeah, a name that's acceptable to who?
Well, to hapu.
What about acceptable to the developer?
Well, obviously with relationships, it's a matter of coming in agreement. If you find, like we give you probably the insurance here today, if you can find there's no way further through this, obviously we come back here and make decision. That's right. What I can suggest. Yes,
obviously, just backing up a wee bit. Obviously, you've had some dialogue with hapu.
Yes.
And is there any perhaps confidence that you were suggesting? Obviously, you're quite keen to have the Hollyoaks down that theme for this particular subdivision or this particular but then going forward, would there be possibly, I know probably can't answer, would be possibly some don't like the word compromise agreement that they would accept what you want to do, and then in the future.
Currently, our commitment is to the Seven Oaks brand for the development. That is committed and in place, and we can't move back on that. That's our whole marketing strategy and branding for it. I'm quite happy to work with all parties, and what the better word I'm trying to achieve is that we blend the two objectives. That there could be a mixture of some European names and some Maori names.
There's been no pushback from the Hapu about what you're proposing. You've had that
Well,
conversation.
Well, there is, because at the present point in time, the Hapu are saying they will only accept Maori names for the whole site. But they acknowledge that that's their view. They don't necessarily have the power to enforce that.
Mr. CEO, that resolution as it is there, suggested number 3. Are you comfortable with that from a resourcing perspective? Sorry, John.
Yes, I am, and I think I think what that would do would enable us to go and have the conversation. Obviously, if that conversation comes back in a negative way, in terms of no, we're still not able to get agreement, at least we can come back and talk through that with you, so that you're aware of that when you make your decision.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Mack?
Just for clarity then, because obviously you've stated that you're going to keep the name or go along that track. What would happen if we come back and they say no? What would you do?
What I've stated is that we will be keeping the name Seven Oaks, which is the subdivision name. We are committed to that. We would like to see that history blended with the Maori history in terms of naming the roads. So if we name the first stage the road in first stage Sherwood Way, that doesn't negate the opportunity to blend in some Maori names within the overall development. We haven't been able to get to the point where we can have an agreed Maori name at this point because of the lack of, I don't want to say lack of time, but the lack of resource that Hapu have been able to put into meeting and getting to that point. So, yeah.
Okay, Councillor Rankin.
Could we, Your Worship, add on to that resolution for decision at the next meeting, at the next council meeting, because that gives the developer some surety that we'll do it in December?
Sure. Councillor Westerman?
Phil, just remind me what's happening down at Oakdale, the subdivision next door. That's predominantly kind of European names, is it?
I did do some research this morning for this meeting on names in Kinloch. The Oakdale subdivision is all named after trees. It's Kahikatea, Karaka, Pukatea, Lancewood, Oakdale Drive, Ribbonwood, Kanuka Grove, so there's a mixture there as well. I think that the tree naming theme is sort of a good extension into Okaya, into Seven Oaks. And they've got lacebark. There's quite a mixture. There's Flaxen Way down further in Lyland. There's Cabbage Tree Grove. Well, Cabbage Tree isn't a Maori name. There's a Maori name for Cabbage Tree. So I think some of that could be, that same theming could be extended into ours, and that's completely our commitment. I would like to suggest that there's another option. The council approves it, but with the instruction back to both parties, all parties, that they work together for achieving that blending of names in the rest of the development.
Okay, Councillor Rankin has suggested to put a time frame on this. Okay, is that the thrust of your suggestion? That by the what date is the December meeting? 10th. There's or the other option is just leave it on the table. Yeah. Sorry. Yes.
Through you, Your Worship, just a question around whether there's, noting the concerns that have been noted by the applicant, whether there's an ability for a direction that if council officers were not able to engage for whatever reason, that there's a time limit, and if basically agreement in principle.
To name it Ferndale. Sherwood, I mean, sorry, Ferndale. Getting confused, there's that many Dales.
I don't know the legalities of that, which is why I asked the question, but if there was an ability...
I think, yeah, thank you for that. Perhaps we put a time frame on this and then make that decision on the 10th of December. Then you know exactly what's happening. Well, it's arranging a meeting. Scott?
Just my only concern with that is what's the purpose of consultation? That's meaningful dialogue. And if you put a time frame on it, and you're kind of putting a restriction on Mokai as part of this process that I don't believe we should do. It's my professional opinion. It's for meaningful engagement. It should be between the two parties to meet those as much as they need to and have those discussions and go through that process. And yes, I understand the developers have a time frame, so I totally appreciate their perspective. But I don't also want us to get to a point where it feels like it's just tokenistic consultation.
Okay. Have we managed to identify the members of the hapu that make this decision?
We haven't had any direct involvement in that, so Dylan would
So
provide
we
one.
can certainly do that. Dylan can do that. Just in terms of the 10th, I mean, it's actually practically impossible to do it. It means that we'd have to have an agenda item drafted by Wednesday next week. We're not going to be able to get the consultation done and dusted by Wednesday next week. It's a physical impossibility.
Right. What about we then leave it on the table till that meeting and then possibly go away, get some more information or some more dialogue? No?
I think through you, Chair, at the end of the day, the conversation has been, well, the discussion, the decision is for council to make the decision.
Yes.
You need to understand what the hapu's position is. That might be the instruction to me, specifically to maybe delve deeper into what has been communicated to the developer.
Yep, cool.
Which can assist you in making your decision when you do.
Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, I appreciate the conversation so far, and consultation is a two-way process, and it's not all one side or the other. And I appreciate the constraints that the developer is under. And I'm also conscious that, as you say, there are a number of other streets, and there appears to be a willingness to engage and to apply Māori names to the remainder or to a significant number of those. And given that we are setting ourselves up to fail if we want to have meaningful consultation by the next meeting, I wonder if that's actually a complete waste of time going down that track, and that the motion is before us and we should vote on it.
Councillor Leonard.
I think we need to be really cautious about the decision that we make at this point, because this subdivision granted in February, there was obviously some pre-planning to that purchase, to all of that. I'm guessing that we might be looking at least a 2-year process. I just wonder whether due consideration has been given around consultation and the importance of it, and that it's being held up at the last minute, that now we want to rush to do it. What are we setting as a precedent upon this decision?
Right, okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I then ask the developer, February, was it the 1st or 2nd of February you started to consultate? When did that actually start to happen?
Thank you, that's a good question. The consultation's been ongoing since well before February. February was when the consent was granted. And we have continued to request for further consultation with the hapu all throughout this year. The difficulty that we've had is being able to get time in front of them to discuss with them, and that has been numerous requests for consultation since February, ongoing for this situation, for the road names, but also for the future development. And the first time we've been able to get consultation meeting with them was this morning. So we've been asking for the bulk of this year. So we haven't delayed it to a last minute thing. We have been put into a situation where our project still has to continue in a commercial sense whilst we're trying to work with all the affected parties. There's been a whole heap of affected parties involved in this development. And we have attempted to undertake quite as much consultation as possible, but it is a two-way street. And we're prepared to continue to keep doing that, and we genuinely want to have meaningful engagement with the hapu going forward and recognise their cultural history on the land with the rest of the development. But we're at a point where we've gotten to the stage where we need to move forward on stage 1 and get our titles.
Chairman, just to hurry things up, I'll therefore move that the council approves the following road name, Sherwood Way for the Seven Oaks subdivision, Kinloch, with the additional information, how it's worded, I don't know, and that further consultation takes place for the naming of the outstanding 10 roads. To put a subdivision on hold for something that might take another 6 months to complete, I think it's very unfair on the developer and those funding that development. So I'd move that, Mr. Chairman.
It's been moved by Councillor Body and seconded by Councillor Rankin. Right. Who is it? Anyone want to speak against that resolution? Councillor Kingy.
Thank you, Worship. Look, I won't regurgitate what I said earlier, but I think I appreciate what our developer has stated as far as that consultation. However, this is a decision before council, and we have a relationship in a partnership with the hapu. So I think we're in a very different space to the applicant, and so I think we need to reflect on what that actually means. So I'll be voting against the motion.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kingy. Councillor Leonard.
I think under the changes to the recent acts, we're actually legislated around consultation and our partnerships.
Councillor, anyone want else speak against? Councillor Taylor.
You understand that around consultation, consultation is being undertaken by the developer. Are we now going to undertake consultation on a decision we make before we make a decision here? Because that seems to be a fairly circuitous process.
Okay, anyone else? Councillor Guy.
Sorry, could I just have a point of clarification? Is there any reason why Okaya Drive cannot continue through?
Okaya Drive is continuing through the development. This is a cul-de-sac that comes off Okaya Drive, just a short length of road.
Okay. Cool. Scott, sorry.
Sorry, just the comments in terms of the legislation. So, legislation has changed in terms of iwi consultation, but not in terms of the road naming process. So, the road naming process is an Australian standard that requires us to undertake consultation with emergency services and those relevant parties. The iwi consultation is because that's our internal processes. So that's more about our internal process as a council and how that ties into our vision and values with iwi consultation.
Sure. Okay, all right. It's been moved and seconded. I'll talk against the motion. We did have a recent consultation, or as it were, or full day with all the hapus and Te Wharetoa, and we made that commitment there that there'll be no surprises. We will advise them all the way along. Unfortunately, we've come to a bit of a standstill here. Unfortunately, in this case, and I understand the commercial realities and all that of developer. What I'd possibly like to suggest, and I realise there's been a motion moved and seconded, that we lay this on the table till the 10th of December. I would like to get my head around the people involved in the naming and just work with Mr. Tahoe as to the actual reasons, and I'm prepared to have a meeting and be involved and come back and report on the 10th of December. In the time frames of scenarios there, I don't think it's going to hopefully stall any 224s and all that sort of thing, but I think we've got to be mindful here. We have new fantastic relationships with our hapus and our iwi indeed. So I would not like to put that in jeopardy this afternoon for the sake of a name road, but I do understand commercial realities too. So we've got to keep the business going and keep things happening, but I think we owe it to our iwi partners to be courteous and be polite, and as the representative of the Council of People of Taupo, I think it's incumbent on me to perhaps try and facilitate those discussions. So I'm happy to do that. There's been a motion moved.
Can
Yeah,
I offer
sorry,
something
Phil.
to perhaps improve that motion? That we're talking about naming roads. There are reserves that we are talking about naming as well. So
Yes,
that
sure.
could be added in. There's quite an opportunity for names to reflect various
Absolutely.
cultures.
So my suggestion is to lay it on the table for further information. Yeah. So I do move the resolution.
So the mover and second will agree to essentially remove the mover and second, and then you can put under any standing orders, you actually have to have a resolution to lay it on the table.
Okay.
Otherwise you need to vote and decide on this one and then move on to a second one.
So do I move my resolution first?
No, you can't. You
No.
can't.
So I move John.
Decide this one either by voting on it unless the mover and second agree not to. This will go through.
Okay. So do I have any change of heart from the mover and seconder? Is the mover still happy with?
I believe it's a very good resolution that should be passed.
Okay, cool. Been moved by Councillor Body, seconded by Councillor Rankin. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Have a show of... sorry, those aye, please, could we have a show of hands? That's for that resolution there.
Sorry, I think we're getting confused.
Yeah, this is...
Clear. So this is for
Yeah, what I've suggested in my proposal, perhaps coming up shortly, is that we lay it on the table to the 10th of December and make the final decision then.
Yep, so this vote here is for Councillor Body's resolution. So we'll show of hands those in favour for that resolution. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And those against?
4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay, so we'll just lay this on the table until the 10th.
So you now need to...
Sorry, I need to move...
Motion's
do I-
passed. You now need to move that this is laid on the table until the 10th of December.
Yeah.
And you need a second.
Okay, could I have a seconder, please? Seconder, Councillor Kingy. All those in favour, please say aye. A show of hands, just to be on the safe side. Okay, and those against? Only two this time. Okay. Right. All right, so the motion is carried. Thank you very much. So 10th of December, and myself, Mr Tahoe, and we'll get together with Mr Riley and work out a way that we can meet these people, and then we won't keep you waiting any longer, but apart from the 10th here. Thanks very much. All right. What I was going to... Yes.
I was going to raise this before, but we were moving pretty quickly. I just wonder, it seems to me, and I don't know the operational considerations that occur when this happens, but is there a point at which a developer signals with council that there might be an issue around this, so that we can intervene?
Sorry, you haven't quite got out of it.
Sorry, apologies.
Come back.
Sorry.
Councillor King, he's got a very good question.
Yes,
Sorry.
so apologies. So my question was, is there a point at which a developer can actually signal to council there is some tension in that consultation around, say, road names or something, so that we may be able to intervene at an earlier stage so this doesn't occur in future? Is there a chance along that timeline that could occur?
Yes. It all depends on when they actually lodge the application, because we've got sort of timeframes. We can't cause undue delay with any type of application. So it was lodged, I think, a couple of months ago. I did go back and say, can you please just itemise some of out the consultation that was carried out, because the response that I'm reading is that it's not positive feedback on this name, and I informed them of what my non-recommendations would be, and they chose to carry on and say no, take it to the meeting. So, but yeah, it all depends on when that application is made. But yes, they can signal to us at any point, and
I think the message from Councillor King, the earlier the better, that people know about.
Yeah, well, I appreciate what you're saying. I think, Your Worship, there is an opportunity for us as a council to correct this, so that if we see this start to occur early, we offer assistance early, because I think if we're going to get this every time, we're really going to get ourselves into some hot water. So it's yeah, I guess trying to say, if we're here to support our district, iwi, Māori, hapu developers, then we need to be intervening earlier. Yeah.
Cool. Councillor Mack?
Just for clarity, so you obviously knew this was going to be an issue, but you wanted to come to us. So,
Yes.
No, I didn't know it was going to be an issue.
No, the developer was stating.
Oh, yes,
yeah.
yes.
So the question would be, though, is then in the role, would it not be better to say council's known preference would be that we're going to be in partnership, which means there's no point in going to council because we will refer.
That's kind of the
Essence of the
advice that I did give.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's their prerogative to say, no, go ahead, we've applied for it, so take it to council.
I guess you've also got a new council.
Yeah.
And with the greatest respect to
Yeah. But what I'm just thinking going forward, obviously for us, we certainly don't want to be in that position because obviously it looks really bad for us. But knowing now what we all say about a partnership, we will throw it out basically if you've already told them that it's not the way to be doing it. Cool. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Mm.
Cool.
Okay.
Thanks, Louise. You're excused. All right. Item number, something more exciting, 5.3, Kinloch Wastewater Treatment Plant. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, councillors. Just an introduction, I'm Dennis Lewis, the Infrastructure Manager for Council, and to my left is Mike Cordell. Mike's the Manager, Water and Waste Assets, and I'm going to let Mike do all of the talking. He's the technical expert. We've got here before you recommendation to accept a tender for some professional services work on the Kinloch Treatment Plant design.
Thank you, Michael. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone, and good to see some new faces as well. It's
good,
we'll probably well, it's always good to meet people. And I'll probably be seeing you on some of the tours of our facilities over the next wee while.
Cool.
So I guess this paper is here because the sum is above the delegation of the CEO, and the project is an upgrade to the Kinloch Wastewater Treatment Plant, which we talked about at length in August, and so we've run a tender process, first a registration of interest process to shortlist 3 suitable companies, run a tender process, and the outcome of that tender process is Becker Limited is a preferred consultant, engineering consultant to deliver this work, and this is for the design work of the upgrade, which so that is for 933,000. There's a contingency in there of 200,000, which is a couple of unforeseen, or not unforeseen, there's a couple of items which are risk items, which we won't know whether we require until we get into the job, so there's a sum to cover those if required. So the recommendation is for council to accept the tender from Becker and to allow a sum of $200,000 to cover the costs of those provisional items and any other unforeseen items that might pop up during the design process.
Cool. Okay, thank you, Mike. So hopefully you don't have to use the 200, but
hopefully not.
See you just in case. Yep, Councillor Mack.
Just as a layperson, and obviously new to council, when we get these tenders, it always seems that you get to a point that you've used up your contingency, and then we seem to go over. If this happens, do we just come back for more money, or is this it?
If we exceed the sum, we would have to
The
come back to you.
933 plus 200.
Yes.
Do we finish and then they have to top it up, or do you come back?
That depends on each contract and how it's written. So if it's not something, if the work is within the scope of the contract that they have to deliver, then they have to deliver it at the tendered price. If it's something we add to the scope that's not part of the original scope of work for that consultant or contractor, then we would have to come back to you.
If you change it, it could go up, but if you haven't changed it, this figure that we see here shouldn't be exceeded.
That's right. I mean, there's always unforeseens, so we might, unlikely, but you know, we could do some work and do some geotech testing and then find that it's not the normal pumice site that we think we're going to find. It's it needs much more ground remediation, and so some design to go along those lines. Or we find a historical site that means the project is delayed for some period of time. So there's always all sorts of things that can pop up.
Outside the norm, but if this just
yeah,
went
that's
through
right.
as normal, it won't go above the 933 plus 200.
That's right.
Correct.
Any other questions? All right, Councillor Westman.
Sorry, it's just a clarification. What is the delegation sum? What? Yeah.
500.
Cool. All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. There's a recommendation
Could I,
up there. Councillor
through
Body.
you, Mr. Chairman, just ask, in the document it states the provisional items that not included, and also project contingency. So what actually in dollar terms is the project contingency? What have you allowed out of that 200? Is it 80,000, 10,000?
No, so so those, I mean, we don't know what, so if we find during the geotech investigation there's some unforeseen ground conditions which might require some extra design, you know, that could be, it's hard to put an exact number on it, but it could be very small. It might be $50,000. So I'd expect that of the identified items, they would make a small portion of that 200,000.
So through you, Mr. Chairman, the geotech investigation hasn't been done because we had another instance in the last financial year where you went so far, set the sum, and then suddenly found a boulder or something.
Yes, some provisional geotech.
So what
investigation has been
provisional is not good enough. Have you geoteched the whole area that you wish to go through? So therefore, you would not need to have the contingency or a figure. So why hasn't the whole job been geotech?
I can comment. So the design work hasn't been completed yet, so we don't know what the ground bearing requirements are for the structures that haven't been designed yet. As those structures are designed, the ground conditions will be assessed against those structures. I mean, we generally know what we're dealing with in this area. We've done a lot of work in the area. It's known pumice ground, but it is in the bottom of a gully. It would be foolish for us not to allow anything and then have a small problem and have to come back to you for a small variation.
My question therefore would be, what the HEWL did you actually tender on? We expect the ground to be pumice. Well, that didn't happen in another instance. I'm just a little bit nervous that there seems to be an unknown that we're going to be paying money on. I are interested in Councillor Mack's comments in regards of, is that the final figure? That's what concerns me.
We think that allowance is sufficient to cover the risks.
So through the chair, if I may assist here, Michael's 100% correct. The sequence of events in this one is a little bit different because we're paying for design services here. We haven't designed anything yet. So once we get through the design and the criteria, we'll know the ground requirements and we'll be able to do geotech then. A lot of other times we've come to you, we've already had the design done, we're going out for tender for a construction and we've already done the geotech. So it's just a sequencing thing and there is no way we'll go over that budget without coming back to you. We're hoping to do well within that budget.
Through the chair.
Councillor Williamson?
Through the chair. Yeah, I think, obviously we just have, be realistic. I mean, contingency is not a target. It's obviously a sum there for an unlikely series of events that may or may not be able to forecast. When you start digging into the ground, I know obviously geology of the area is, they've got a fairly good steer on it, but hey, we have to be realistic, because this is the with these sort of projects, especially the big ticket ones. So I understand what where you're coming from. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, just finally, Mr. Chairman, this is for the balance tank project.
No, this is for the project that was rescoped in the August meeting.
So under the long-term annual plan, the expenditure outline is currently budgeted for under the Kinloch WWTP balance tank project.
Yes, that's the funding, and we came to you in August and with a rescope of project, which showed that funding is still available now, but will be reallocated to the MBR upgrade.
So effectively, you're saying also in this document that 1.743 million is available in the 1920 budget for this period, and in fact the annual plan is for 1.7.
Can you repeat that, please?
The document here states there is 1.743 million available in the 1920 budget for this project. The annual plan states 1.7.
It's, if I may answer that, that is correct. There's 1.7 million in annual plan and the balance is carry forward or bow wave from the previous year.
If that's the case, why is that bow wave not documented in the financial figures that we're looking at? Because it states here clearly 1.743 when it's not. This is just one of the, and I accept what Councillor Williamson is saying, is that when we start talking big figures, I like to try and get my handle about what is the accurate figure. And where's that, what project is that bow wave from? And how much was the bow wave?
That information, no doubt. You know offhand, Dennis, or?
That bow wave was from the prior work that was done on the balance tank from the previous year.
And in that statement, there is, I guess, if you want to, I guess there is $1.743 million available right now to utilise for this project.
Okay, all right, I think we've got that. So, Councillor Truman. Moved by Councillor Truman, seconded by Councillor Park. Any further discussion? All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Obviously, Kinloch is a growth point, so good luck with the project. 5.4 is the lease assignment request from Stir Cafe to the Jolly Partnership. Mr. Nathan Murray, Reserves Manager. Good afternoon, Nathan.
Good afternoon, Your Worship. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Nathan Murray, the Senior Reserves Planner for Council. This is a request from the Stir Cafe to assign their lease to the partnership identified. It's a little bit of a different one to our usual one in that the land is at the harbour, which we have recently started to administer on behalf of new landowners, which is part of the big settlement which concluded on March the 12th. Unfortunately, we weren't able, due to the shortness of time to get this item prepared, we weren't able to, or sorry, the Jollies weren't able to get feedback from the landowners on their position on the lease assignment. So, yeah, we're a little bit in the dark on that, given that the new entity is still getting up and running and everyone's learning how to work with them.
But under that new arrangement with the new owners, sorry, you might go on to this name, that we do handle the concessionaires, correct?
Yes, we inherited, I think it was around about 17 existing concession holders on that site, which Doc gleefully handed over to us to administer. We do have some work in train to try and get some more formal management, like a reserve management plan down on that area, but in the meantime we still have to carry on business as usual and support those existing businesses as well as trying to support the new landowners while we carry out our administration tasks. But ultimately the decision is council is the administrator of the land.
Right. Okay, questions? Councillor Park?
Yes, just through the chair, with the current concession holder, Kiva Khan, do they still exist through to the end of December next year, or is this for if this concession is granted, is that sooner? The period of 5 years for the current concession holder ends December 2020.
Yep. No.
Is this new concession for post December 2020?
The concession will be to take over the existing licence. So the licence will just be under the new owners. There will not be any extension to the licence. It will still expire at the same time, and the partnership is well aware of the risks going into there, and that if they do take over the business and for some reason the concessions aren't extended, or we choose to go down a different path in association with the landowners, that's
so. In saying that, the current concession holder is departing from the concession.
I presume selling to Jolly.
Yeah, both parties.
So basically, it's
they're selling their business.
Sale of the remainder of the lease.
Yeah. No, that's good. It just wasn't clear.
So they will sell the business, and part of the business is the remaining term of that licence on the site.
Yeah. Could you clarify? So obviously the Jolly Partnership's Te Whare Toa Māori group.
So Taupo Moana Group Holdings, which is an offset of Te Whare Toa Group, Te Whare Toa Trust Board, but this is a partnership with so two companies which have come together to form a new limited liability company who have purchased this. So quite different to Te Kotahitanga, who's the landowner, which is why the recommendation says to approve, subject to approval from Te Kotahitanga. The difference between this one and, say, the street naming one that you've just had the big debate is that this is Te Kotahitanga's land. They obviously hold it at the moment. It will go to Hapu eventually, but at the moment they are the holding body. Whereas last time it was a private piece of land in a naming. This is actually their land that you're exercising delegation
So
over.
basically it's an assignment of the lease, but subject to the landowner's permission. Cool. Any questions? No, pretty straightforward. Thanks. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Boddy, seconded by Councillor Westman. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Thanks, Nathan. Right, 5.5 extraordinary vacancy, Turangi-Tongariro Community Board. Tina is pretty well outlined in the paper there. I presume we just get on with it. Yeah.
I actually do have a question, Tina. I sort of
Sorry, Tina, you haven't had a chance yet.
You haven't even sat down yet.
Yeah.
At the local government New Zealand, we were just having a talk about something, and I picked up at the end of a conversation, somebody had asked a question that had to go away to get answered. And it was actually this situation, but it was in Auckland, where they'd actually had somebody stand and they actually didn't take the position. The question was, do you have to have a by-election or can you go to the next? They actually said that there wasn't actually any legislation, but his understanding would be, and this was his answer, if you had a white supremacist or somebody similar next on the list, would you really want them to be the next person voted in? But they did say that there wasn't any legislation. Is that true or not? Because
there is legislation.
there is.
Yep.
Because I thought with this situation, it's not somebody who's going to be obviously much different from the person that did get ahead of them, and it's just a saving of a lot of money.
Yep, agree.
We all agree that given that it was the resignation came even before the board was sworn in, it would have been good if we could have found a way to go to that next person. But the advice from the electoral officer was that the legislation is quite clear. So I think, potentially the advice that you were given there was probably an off-the-cuff type of conversation. The considered opinion of the electoral officer was that it's quite clear.
Could be a remit suggestion for the next local government because it's happening all over the country, this sort of thing. You know, someone unfortunately gets unwell or whatever, because it's quite a time frame from putting your nomination in from when you're successful. So, Tina, sorry, did you have anything to add other than that's pretty
no.
clear? We get on with the job?
Yep. So I started to advertise nominations on Monday, closes on the 23rd of December.
Yep.
And elections in February.
Cool. Do I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Truman, seconded by Councillor Taylor. All those in favour, please say aye. It's against, carried. Thanks, Tina. Council committees now. Establishments and appointments and delegations, we've got them all there.
So I believe
Any changes?
there's a couple of changes, and you've got the list on your paper as part of the appendix.
Yep.
And I'd also like, Nick wants to come and have a talk around the two joint committees, Tarot and Whakaaro, just in terms of the membership numbers. We're still having a bit of a conversation in terms of how many that might be.
Well, if we go back to your ones first, Tina, the committees, we've got that sussed.
Sorry,
Yep, sorry, Councillor Leonard.
Under the Taupo Reserves and Roading Committee, that's including the Taupo Rural East Ward, so I feel that there should be that person represented on that committee, not just the 7 town councillors.
Yeah, good point. Yep.
Chair, I was going to raise that one as well.
Yep. Okay, so we had the rural representative councillor on that one too. Thanks, Tina.
Yep.
Councillor Park.
Yes, there's a change of membership in the Emergency Management Committee as well. The committee meets on Mondays, which conflicts with Councillor Rankin's DHB commitment. So, Councillor Kingy has said he's happy to sit on the committee again for this training.
Okay, we add Councillor Kingy. You okay with that? Yep, cool. Councillor Rankin, good. All right. Any other suggestions or changes? Yep. Councillor Truman.
Yeah, so I was just wondering on the Risk and Insurance Committee, it's asked for 1 MP or someone from TT or TER ward. So I was just wondering whether John Mack was interested in that one. I think that. Thank you, John.
Thank you. So that was you were on that. Yeah. So we changed that one, Tina, from Councillor Truman to Councillor Mack.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, through the chair. Oh, sorry.
Councillor Williamson.
We had that conversation at lunchtime regarding the portfolios, and I got the understanding, which is quite Ewan and John Mack were quite happy with regarding they'll be separated. A lot of those roles will be separated out because I'm on 2 portfolios. So that's I'm clear. I'm happy with that. We're all happy with that.
5.7, so we'll cover that on the next agenda item if that's all right. I just, it was attached to the wrong, unfortunately, to the wrong agenda item. It should have been attached to the 5.4.
Okay.
And then we've got the district licensing committee as well.
Yeah, that's later on, isn't it? We want to do that now. Oh, do that now? Yeah, with the external appointments.
Yes, unfortunately, through the chair, I will have to decline that. My son-in-law is a financial analyst for a liquor company in Auckland, so I will have to decline.
So it's his job to increase sales or decrease? Okay, thanks, Councillor Guy, for recognising that conflict of interest there. So, do we need a replacement on there? We've got Councillor Boddy as a deputy chair.
The point I was going to raise, and Mrs. Jakes will help me out on this. I don't see any reason why Councillor Guy can't be on that. You declare a conflict of interest. I can't work out. It's a little bit down. I know Councillor Taylor because family in the police. I understand that. Because often, sometimes to have a council rep, because at the moment it was himself and Barry Hickling, sometimes it's difficult to get one of us. So maybe we need 3. I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
Mr. Green.
So through you, Mr. Chairman. So I've corresponded with the councillor, and we've had a conversation. I provided her some details that helpfully came out a couple of days ago, which explained the different areas and perceived conflict. In this case, given that the councillor's son-in-law is part of a national alcohol company, then there is a real perceived, if not real, conflict of interest. So the councillor has decided not to take the position. I do agree with you, though. I think having another councillor on the committee would be a really good thing. So I'd definitely encourage another councillor who may not have a conflict to put their hand up.
Anyone else interested? To ring it? Okay. Do we seek? So was it made up of 2 councillors, 2 external, and 1 chair, independent chair? How many applications do we get per year, Jen? Average. How many have you done, John? Oh, Scotty. Sorry.
Yeah, so there have been some changes to the Sales Supply of Alcohol Act as well in terms of the workloads. So,
Scott,
which in the past it required all managers' certificates to form a quorum as well to approve those. So that's just changed, which is the bulk of our work, which now only requires the Commissioner, so in that case Murray Clearwood, to approve those. So the only time we actually use the District Licensing Committee is when we call a hearing. And generally hearings are only when we've got applications for liquor licences or events that are opposed by either the Chief Licensing Inspector, the police or the Medical Officer of Health. And so probably you might be lucky if we have 6 of those a year, so it's a quite low workload.
Okay, thank you.
Just ask Scott, does that include temporary licences? Is that still done by a phone up?
So those temporary licences don't require a quorum either now.
It's the Commissioner?
That's correct.
Yeah, and I'm on there as of right, correct? No. Okay. All right, well I might as well do it then. Need something else to do. Well, have I got any last Last people. Last volunteer. Well done, Johnny. Thank you very much. He's come in from first slip. Thank you very much. Thank you. I say Councillor Williamson there, Tina, and Councillor Boddy. Right. Any other committee? So Tarrant, Nick, you want one or two?
I was just going to suggest that you hold off on with regard to both Tarrant and Rokawa and Te Kopua-Kanapanapa. And that's on the basis that for Te Kopua-Kanapanapa, they are working through some changes to the terms of reference. It's a bit silly approving them now. We might as well wait till those are bedded in. So we'll bring that back to the next available meeting. With regard to the two governance groups that we have with our iwi partners, we really need to have a bit more conversation with them to make sure we get the balance of numbers right. Kirsty, you'll remember in previous meetings with Rokawa, we've sent one representative because we've had all the councils who they have joint management agreements with sitting around the same table. We need to just double check that they're going to continue to take that approach. Otherwise, we may need to look at a change in membership. So suggest that you just hold off on those.
Okay, thanks, Nick. All right. Thank you very much, Tina, for putting all that list, a fairly elongated list of portfolios. And you're going to perhaps at some stage let us know about the reporting measures on the portfolios? Yeah, just to give us an idea. Okay, was recommendations up there, Shani, if we all okay? So do we have to, we don't have to say defer, put the, what Nick suggested, defer, we don't mention that? Just noted in the minutes, good one. Okay, the recommendation there, can I have a mover please? Moved by Councillor Rankin, seconded by Councillor Kingy. All those in favour please say aye. Those against, carried. Thank you. Appointments to organisations.
Information that Councillor Williamson was talking about in terms of changes to the environment, into splitting into two portfolios, is that correct?
Sorry, you need your speaker on.
I need to repeat myself.
Councillor Westerman nodded, so you're all good. Yeah.
Well, Councillor Mack heard me.
All right.
So just to clarify, remove you from arts and culture. Yep. And still two of you on environment.
Very good. Any other changes? Any, Councillor Park?
With the international relations, I was just sort of going to dovetail into Councillor Guy and Rankin with economic and business. So
You want that to be part of that?
yeah, we don't. I think as a new area, we certainly probably don't need to have two councillors on that at that point. But if it proves to be that huge amount of work, then.
So the dovetailing, what do you mean by that, sorry?
Well, international relations is being pulled out of economic and business portfolio area.
Right.
So we can give our sister city relationships and whatnot a bit more care. And also with Turangi's relationship, you know, just someone with to just keep an eye on those and monitor those. But there is also some things through EGLT and DGLT this morning around international students and whatnot that can be looked at, but I don't think it's a workload of two.
For international relations, yeah. So who? You, Kathy?
We've talked about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So just you on international? Is that?
Yeah, and then I'll feed into the economic and business portfolio.
Okay. So Councillor Rankin, Councillor Guy, economic development, Councillor Park, international relations, but you'll feed into.
Yes,
Okay.
we'll all work together.
Work together. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. Thank you. Okay, Tina.
Yep. Thank
Good.
you.
Thank you very much. Do we need a mover there?
Yep.
Yeah, yep. Cool. Could I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Seconded by Councillor Williamson. Right.
Sorry, quick question.
Sorry, Councillor Truman.
So sorry, just the, we've got a meeting coming up with Te Kopu a Kānapanapa. Just wondering what happens then.
So the existing trustees are there until the 11th.
Carries on. Yep.
5.8, appointment and remuneration of directors policy.
So this applies to your CCOs and CCTOs and council organisations. There are some suggested changes in the document, and most of those have been track changed. Suggest on page 175 regarding the meeting fees that we don't offer that, and that the last paragraph is deleted. So where it's got 4.3a, just elected members appointed by council as directors of COs may not receive remuneration, if any, offered by the CO, and then delete the last sentence there, because you don't receive meeting fees anyway.
Okay.
And there's two additional clauses on the next page to consider. So the first one up the top there in blue around the CCO board and the mix of skills, and also in terms of identifying Te Kangamari as well. And in 6.12, just including the wording around public notices in there. And the other question on the next page is around CCTOs. There's a section in there that talks around appropriate governance training, and the question is whether that should be included for CCOs, given there is a bit of a difference. So your CCTOs are there to make a profit, whereas your CCOs aren't in that field. So it's whether you felt there was need for appropriate governance training for those members of CCOs.
What's your suggestion there, Tim?
Sorry?
What's your suggestion there?
I think we've operated without having that previously, and all the directors come through you for appointment, so I think it seems to be working okay.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So that's all I have.
That's all the track change?
Yep.
Any questions of Tina on those? No? All good? Okay, recommendation up there that we adopt the appointment remuneration of directors policy for this triennium. Do I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Guy, seconded by Councillor Williamson. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. 5.9, selection, appointment and remuneration for external appointees on council committees.
So as advised in there, we never had a separate policy for external appointees, and as we've made appointments, we've, through the recommendation, advised what the meeting fee, etc. is going to be. But given the additional number of community or external appointees that we've got in our committee structure now, I thought it might be appropriate to have a more formal policy in terms of how that selection and appointment process and meeting fees is undertaken. So hence the reason for the policy or the draft for you to consider.
Okay.
Pretty much follows what we normally do in terms of the representative groups already. It's just documented. And I suppose the major change there is in terms of the meeting fee. Historically, it's been $100 a meeting, and just having a look around other councils, it seems to be quite light. So, suggesting that go up to 200 or
200 plus mileage.
yes.
Yeah. Okay, how do the members feel about that? Councillor Body?
Just a bit of clarification, Mr. Jakes. Does this refer to audit and risk? Because that's a lump sum to the chairman. Does he then get?
So in the policy it says that if in relation to the chair, an external chair of the committee, then that's negotiated with the chief executive.
So there's that lump sum plus the 200.
No, you wouldn't get the 200.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Thank you. Good to have a policy on that now, though. It's good. Councillor Park.
Yeah, I'm in support of this. I think that if we're going to attract good candidates, they need to be rewarded for their time, and it's been $100 for at least the last 9 years since I've been here. So I'd move the resolution.
Moved by Councillor Park, seconded by Councillor Guy. Any other further discussion? No. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Right. 5.10. Your wages. Distribution of governance remuneration pool recommendations to the. So we make these recommendations to the remuneration committee authority.
That's correct. So
5.10.
A new process in terms of a pool of funding given to council, which has to be all used up. Previously, didn't have to use all the money, and there's a suggestion on the appendix in terms of the distribution of that to the Deputy Mayor and then the chairs of the committees.
Sure. Okay, any queries regarding that? Yeah. So when you say all used up, so if we didn't use the money, we'd have to send it back? Or?
No, they require us to allocate it fully.
Simple as that?
Yep.
No questions asked.
Yep.
Okay, Councillor Body.
Quickly, without repeating what I said at the retreat, I've found that being a councillor is a civic duty rather than a full-time job creating an income. So what I've done, I've gone through what I have received as a councillor. I've left out 13-14 because it was a part year, and effectively when I got through to not the year we're in now, we've had a 2.5% pay increase over that time average. And when I calculated the year that we're in now, it comes out at about $3,000 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 years. My concern is the increase that we will be receiving from now on, which is out of kilter of that. And while we're hamstrung by those that set the salaries, what consultation did we have with them as to the amount that they may give? Do we as a council have any say in that?
So I believe there was, the Room Authority did do some consultation around benchmarking all the councils based on population, based on the fixed assets, those sort of criteria, to come up with a formula that was reflective and fair for all the councils, because it had been quite ad hoc previously. So this is based on a formula spread across all councils.
Thank you. Councillor Park.
Oh, sorry, just through the chair. It's also based on residential population as opposed to ratepayer base, isn't it? So, yeah, so it is.
I know that part of our submission was around reflecting the holiday makers, because we did put a submission in on that aspect, and I think there's a portion of that might be included.
Right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tina, for coming up with those scenarios there. So, do we have any other questions of Tina regarding chairs and councillors' remuneration? No, all right. Suggested resolution there that we approve that. Have a mover, please, for that. Thank you, Councillor Truman, seconded by Councillor Taylor. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Council's October performance report. Mr. Green.
Thank you, Your Worship. So obviously for the new councillors, this is a standing item each month, and it's designed to go through the key projects that council's identified from its long-term plan for that year and its finances, and just give an update of where that's at. Understand that this one will have been a lot for you to chew over, and in particular given that a lot of these projects we haven't yet had the opportunity to go into detail on, and I've already spoken with you about a number of them that you wish to have workshops on, so just bear in mind that those workshops will still be coming, but this is a snapshot in time in terms of the reporting. So I'm not going to bleat on about with the covering report. That's pretty much just some of the highlights that we've had in the last or since the last report in the last month, in fact. And I think the time is probably better spent just running through the rest of the report. What we generally do is I ask the relevant group managers just to go through page by page with you and just work through each of the projects in short form. So that'll start with Alan in terms of the finances. As I say, there's a whole lot of information there, so if it's a question that we can answer off the cuff, then we'll definitely do that. But if it's more in depth, please just still ask the question, and we can either provide that information to you afterwards, because it may take some digging, or else a lot of them will be obviously subject to workshops or further discussions in due course.
Okay, thanks, Gareth. First up, Mr. Hannon.
Yeah, through the chair, just echoing Gareth's comments, this is the financial outcome of all the activities that take place across the district, and yes, I endorse Gareth's comment about asking questions. Often we can make a lot of progress having one-on-one discussions with each of you if there's anything that is of any significance. But if we look at the state, at this particular time of the year, we're still reporting against the budgets that we set, and looking at an annual plan. We start the budgets around about October, November, so they're locked in come April, and you adopt at the end of June. Therefore, we start seeing variances coming through because we do not know at that stage where we are at the end of that financial year. So what we do early in the new year, we will start doing forecasts. So you'll start seeing year-end forecasts that we are comparing with, not just the budgets that we're locked in. So at this particular stage, that's why the forecast numbers in these reports are equal to budget, because we don't forecast until the new year. If we look at the performance to date, we are ahead of our year-to-date budget, and it's mainly in the area of consent fees. The level of activity that we've seen in the building and resource consent area is still at a very high level. We're also ahead on the financial revenue, and I'll talk about the investments in a few minutes. And our operating expenses are pretty much in line. We're still looking into the area of depreciation, what actually happened at the last revaluation of our land and buildings. The value of the total assets increased, but not to the extent on the buildings that we thought they were going to. So we are questioning actually the valuation of the buildings 3 years earlier, but that's why we've got $500,000 positive variance on the revaluations. But basically, at this stage, we're tracking well. Just hope that it continues that way. But yes, we'll have a better idea of where we're tracking, but it's good at this time of the year to be in line with budget or better, and as you can see that we're about 1.7 million favourable on the year-to-date budget. So if I move on to the Treasury report, this is where we talk about the amount of our debt, the amount of our investments, and our performance against the budgets. At the end of October, we had 144 million of borrowings, and we had 126 million of investments. So our net debt at that stage was 18 million. So that's a figure that's quite pleasing at that stage. A bit of a challenge with the OCR only at 1%. Any of you that have term deposit investments will know that there's not a lot to be gained from an investment income area. So when we look at page 2 of the investment returns, which is really the general fund, and the general fund is really along the lines of term deposits and things of that nature, you can see that our year-to-date yield at 2.86%, we cannot probably expect too much more than that, with but it's ahead of what we were budgeting. Our borrowing costs are pretty much in line with what we're expecting. If we look at the TEL fund on the last page, because of share trading we've done this financial year, you can see that our year-to-date cash returns are 7.37%, and the actual budget, or the actual yield on the fund is 4.59%. We're budgeting 3. I'd like to think that we could continue at that level for the rest of the year, but who's going to be able to predict the markets? But what we're taking advantage of is locking in those gains in the first part of the year, and hopefully that will help us out for the rest of the year. If there's no questions, I'll pass it on now to my colleagues, and they'll go through their own group of activities and the projects related to each. So I don't normally talk that long as far as the financials, but being the first one, I thought we'd just have a heads up as to what it's all about.
And thank you, and I appreciate the offer earlier that if anyone wants a one-on-one with Alan, you know, regarding the, you know, drilling down into specific aspects of the finances, it's always good to do.
We also have the workshop obviously on Thursday, which goes through that macro level finances, so it'll probably make more sense after that.
The financial strategy, yep. Mr. Fox. Your Worship. What's he to show?
Good afternoon, Your Worship and Councillors. It's always a pleasure to follow Alan when we report as SLT members. For me, particularly when he talks about consent fees being up, etc. So I've always enjoyed when Alan says that in advance, so it sort of sets the tone. Yeah. Just in that space, I report in terms of under this community services section of this report normally, and as I mentioned to you during your retreat, I gave you a sort of a précis of the activities that are managed within the risk and regulatory area. A lot of that work gets reported through other committees, so what I'll try and do at these full council meetings is give you any highlights or sound bites I think you may be of interest to hear about, and then it might be exceptional to those normal reporting structures.
Chairman, through you, we're starting on community services, is that correct? Thank you.
So just in the building space, and obviously what Alan has reported on reflects on the workload that the team have got in that space, in the building and regulatory area, the resource consents area. Just want to commend Scott and his team in that space, and also to advise we've been very pleased to attract a new building leader in that space, Dean Southey, from Wairarapa, who's made an immediate impact for us, and we're delighted with his performance. Also, just to acknowledge Lisa's business support team, who are also a part of this process of how we do our business and work well. Some of the other areas that may be of interest to you, and I did touch on the other day, our insurance renewal program, most of that has been placed. Our brokers, Aon, are still looking to place the public liability, professional indemnity and statutory liability program. So that's a reflection of the market. Doesn't mean we don't have cover. It's just been extended, if that's where you were going, Your Worship.
Yes,
that's what it might have been.
So how long is that policy to go?
Well, the extension is going to be probably for 3 months. Okay. But if they need to extend again, I think they have the assurance to do so. This is on behalf of all those councils they represent, not just ourselves.
Okay. Just for the members' information, is that's a collective of Tauranga
So it's all the Bay of Plenty councils fundamentally. We work in that particular zone for our insurance program, even though we do belong to the Waikato group. I also mentioned during that retreat our business continuity program and work in that space. That kicks off tomorrow for our extended management team. So that's a program of work that follows on from what we've already got in place in terms of our essential services, but expands it even more. So that initial conversation and program kicks off tomorrow. Just in the civil...
Sorry, Brian,
Yep.
just a quick
Sorry to
interruption.
interrupt. I've just noticed on a couple of these reports with the operating revenue as a lesser figure than the operating expenditure, but they're showing a surplus. I just community services is one. I saw. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. I
Yeah.
thought it would be brackets. Thanks.
Yeah, little tiny minus. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Park. You had me worried there for a minute. You did. Can I just also finally just talk about civil defence, and in particular the Youth and Emergency Services program that was recently been held at Turangi. I've just had a chance to read the evaluation report around that, and can I commend that this is a program that we've been involved with for some time right throughout our district. In fact, Councillor Truman, you might be able to help me. I think Mangakino was actually one of the pilots some time ago, and I've read that report and it speaks glowingly of what those young people received in terms of the response from the responders and their engagement with that. We leverage off that quite a bit, and we've always been very supportive of it. So just an acknowledgement to that program, and also I know Tom, Councillor Kingy, you were heavily involved in that with your other hat on. So I think that's great. So really, Mr. Chairman, that is probably me for the moment. I think you've had a... Thank you, Your Worship. I'll cease on that note then. You're welcome.
Might be some questions. In the community services side, you mentioned the rates are below budget as a result of higher than expected rate remissions. Should that affect our books? Isn't that paid for by central government?
I'll defer that one to Alan, because that's probably outside my purview. We have a policy, which we will touch on Thursday at the workshop, that's a rate policy, and there are a number of factors in it, but it's a cost to us.
Okay.
Rates rebate scheme.
Rates rebate. So if I owe $100 of my rates and I get a discount for 90, the rest of the ratepayers pick up that 10.
We don't give discounts.
You missed what I was saying, but anyway, doesn't matter.
Okay. Community facilities. Correct. Next, is it?
Kia ora.
Oh. Got it, Jules. You can do it from there, Bjorn.
Kia ora
Thanks, Brian.
again, everybody. Your Worship, community facilities, you'll see in the financials some of the our external funds continue to be an issue for us in terms of grants that come in, sit within our books, and the timing sometimes is out. But by and large, we're continuing on. Big ticket projects that are in that conversation, obviously there's the Great Lake Walkway. The tenders have now closed and the team are working through that. That is the walkway that is from the water treatment plant out to Oregon Drive. So that's progressing. Part of that also includes erosion control, that obviously protecting the pathway and the infrastructure along the lake edge. That's there. If you look to the red that's in there, Motutere Recreation Reserve, that is a particular project, and I look to Councillor Westerman and your knowledge of that particular part of our district. The heritage study has been completed by In Situ Heritage. That was a requirement of our review of the reserve management plan. We are having conversations with the lessee, and there are some difficulties in some of those conversations that is yet to be briefed for Council's information. Previous training, you'll remember that there were issues around the settlement and the implications for the lessee, and understanding some of those conversations. Those continue, but for us, we still have a reserve management plan to write, which is required for an update. That okay?
Yep. Thank you. Thank you, Dylan. Any questions?
Just to do, Dylan, a lot of feedback on Facebook at the moment around playgrounds, both all around the district. So I'll just point out the last one there, Destination Playground. That's for the Tongariro North Domain, and then above it, a couple above is
Te Kapua,
Park
yep.
and Turangi. So those are two destination playgrounds which are planned for this financial year. And we're talking February, aren't we?
Yeah, so the initial thinking was to try and bring the same project, or join the two projects and work with the respective communities to develop the refurbishments of the playgrounds. For time constraints, we've not been able to get the same level of community engagement around Te Kapua and the Tongariro program, so we've separated again. The intention on our processes is to get boots on the ground and starting that refurbishment soon after Waitangi Day. Currently, we're working through the tenders process to make sure that we've got the right scope and everything going for that refurbishment of Tongariro Domain. That process is an LTP process that we had set out, and we'll, as I say, have boots on the ground in February. Avoiding, it's going to have one impact on a school holiday, so that's a big thing. Our intention is to start the conversations with the neighbouring shop owners in that community immediately around it, and then from there, the hope is that we can connect. Once we finish Taupo, we then move to Turangi and work through the same process.
Councillor Westerman?
Just a query, driving by Muriru Camp the other day and was surprised to see that building right on the lakefront there. It's on your radar, isn't it?
It absolutely is. I won't tell you what time the trustees send emails. We've had a conversation with Scott and noting, Scott, whether you want to talk to that, the email you sent. It was a good email, so that's not a hospital pass, by the way.
So the members, this is in the
Come and have a seat,
in the campground right on the lake. Yeah, cool. Seen it going up. Yeah.
Certainly get all the tricky ones today.
Yeah.
So there's two existing toilet blocks that have been there for quite a number of years. The campground came to us back in May and asked us to look at it in terms of replacement of those units for like. And so under the Resource Management Act, they had existing use rights as long as they're in the same location, same size, etc. So that was the advice given. They have since sought a building consent, so they're going through a building consent process, and that building consent process required landowner approval as part of their lease. So, and as part of the lease agreement, council in the lease document was the landowner. And so, from a campground perspective, they appear to have done everything above board that was required of them.
But they've started building.
They've completed, I believe. They're pretty much close to opening those toilet blocks.
So,
no, in the same location.
But you say they're applying for a building consent, but that
so
was
they've
issued.
had a building consent that's been granted.
That
yes.
was issued. Okay, sorry. Yep.
So we've made the checks to make sure that it's fully compliant with the rules of the management plan that is currently in place.
Okay.
And they are compliant.
Okay. All right, thanks, Scott. Thank you.
Those that have raised the issue have been communicated that as well.
Yeah, great. Okay, thank you, guys.
Just before, just a
Oh,
question.
sorry.
Question, sorry.
Councillor Truman?
Just a little bit off topic. Just in regards to the Mangakino Sports Ground, should that be on this list? So we're currently looking for funding for that. I just wanted to raise it because I just want councillors to understand where it's at, which we've talked about, but I just wondered, should it be on this list?
Yeah, it's quite a significant project, isn't it?
Thank you.
Yeah, good on you, Kirsty. All right. Thanks, Councillor Body.
Just in regards to the Great Lake Walkway, it's information we receive, if it's up to date or not. On Friday, I call it the Friday Flash, we get all that information from council. In relation to the Great Lake Walkway, it states communication to those affected by the construction, nutty thing, by the, got a bowl of water? We'll begin next week with letters being delivered to the neighbouring properties. We'll visit all affected parties, following this for a face-to-face engagement. Then we read the CEO's report, which it states, we're expecting the resource consents to be issued in the next few days. And then we look at the community facilities report, which must be a month old, because here it states Communication to the immediate neighbours and general public is on hold until the full written approval is received from C75. So is that because this is a month?
Yes.
Yes. Well, this is bloody confusing.
So what I'd say, Mr. Chairman, is that
I know.
obviously the what you call the Friday flash, the communication is up to date, and it's something that can be circulated on the Friday. So the information there is the most up to date. These items, and again we talk this through with you. An agenda item takes a long time to put together, and essentially it's always got a very big lag time of up to 2 or 3 weeks. So the communication on Friday is the most up to date, in that that we've been through that process. This is as it was written at that time.
So through the chair, just to add to that, 10th of December is the next council meeting. We've already gone through all of those reports. So, there is a long lag in time.
Yep. All right, thanks, Dylan. Thank you very much. Kevin, water.
So yeah, just getting back to Councillor Truman's question there, addition of the Mangakino changing rooms. These lists that we have here are historic lists, and we do have to go through and reconcile with what are the top projects working our way through, and we'll do that over time.
So that's something, at our retreat we spoke and I asked you about what your key projects were, and I'm intending on making sure that all of those are headline projects in here, and then over time definitely any others that as you set, particularly the next annual plan and long-term plan, any projects that you want to have monthly reporting, then highlight those out. Simply because we don't here talk about every single project we do, otherwise these things would be hundreds and hundreds of pages long. It's really those ones of high value, high interest, contentious. Yeah.
Exactly. You set yourself up there, mate.
All right. Just as an example, like this year alone, we're trying to get through about 150 different projects, so there's no way we can report on all of those, but we can report on the topical ones. The water there, what we've done is we've added in a little bit of new information there around the drinking water status and whether we're compliant or non-compliant. That's for the new elected members. When you turn the tap on, it's not as simple as that, as you can all appreciate. And there are some workings through and some operational improvements that we are working on to make sure that we are compliant. But in general, we are compliant for what they call bacteriological. So we add chlorine to all of our supplies, and that deals with that. The protozoan compliance is only for, that's Cryptosporidium giardia. That's the type of stuff that we're only compliant for in our larger supplies. And we have a working program, pretty active in that space, and bringing those other supplies up to speed to be able to deal with that. That will be a question that we will raise through the long-term plan process around whether that is quick enough, and the likes of Havelock North and central government pressure on being compliant, being raised with the new regulator in that space, would suggest that we'd have to consider that very closely about moving those timeframes to be tighter. We've got a couple there around the bacteriological. Even though we are compliant with that, with how we deal with it, we do have from time to time issues, and those issues are really around turbidity is one of them. So sometimes when the wind blows the wrong way and it's strong, we get trouble, in particular for those with shallow intakes. Those Hatepe is our most common one. It's the shallowest. We have trouble with that. Morateri, that one had a turbidity issue. The new elected members won't know, but when we were getting dirty water through there, we sent a diver down to look at the intake, and the intake wasn't there. It disappeared for an earthquake, little shake, and we still can't find it. So we've got a new one in place, but these are the types of things that we have to deal with on a case-by-case basis. The other ones are around it's around the reporting. So the quality of water is good, but we have to maintain what they call continuous reporting, and sometimes our telemetry and things go down. We've got quite an active program, and I'll talk about this on Thursday, around the telemetry and the work that we're doing in that space. It's quite an active space, something that because we have so many supplies, we're heavily reliant on our telemetry. We can't afford to have an operator at each of our 18 water sites and 12 wastewater sites, so we're heavily reliant on that. As far as the projects are concerned, I think Mr. Body's got a couple of questions, which I'm hoping Neil can help out with around the finances. Because Dennis and I looked at the questions, and as Mr. Body is very correct in what he says, we tended to agree with him, but we didn't have all of the figures. So I'll get John to repeat that question.
I think if it's being sorted, it's not really an issue, but
Okay, cool.
One of the ones was in regards of Acacia Bay. Once again, the annual plan says 2.1, and we're talking 2.3. And the other one was to do with the Motorola Reserve renewal, but that is a renewal, not part of capital, so it's not shown as an indication in the budgetary, it's part of renewals.
Yep. So if you're comfortable, if you need to, we'll catch up with Neil individually. Yep.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, transport. We're done there. Right.
Yep, Kio Transport.
Yep.
And again, there was another budget question that we can work our way through. Just trying to catch up with my notes. Whaka Falls, I think that's been in the council weekly update. That is currently, the road is closed for some of the time this week to do the work there for the new footpath. Mapura Road, we have a new project manager coming on board, and we'll be able to get that project up and running. It's been one that's been hanging around for quite a while. We now have the money, so after Xmas we'll be into the construction of that footpath, which is from the end of the existing footpath up to Acacia Heights Drive. And the post-construction audit for Kittle Drive and Arrowsmith, we're about to receive that from the safety advisor, and I understand it's now gone to our designers and it will be coming back to us. I think Dennis has just got it this afternoon, so we'll give him a bit of time to read through that, and then we'll put that in our council weekly update on Friday.
Okay. So if there's any adjustments to be made, is there a contingency figure that?
Well, I think at the end of the day, we do have money set aside in the LTP in the future for a roundabout in that space. But we certainly want to give the changes and the realignment a chance to work. And you know, to be fair, I've been getting a lot of comments that it's a lot safer, particularly for the kiddies getting to school across there. And we have had issues with people not necessarily stopping when they should stop. Yeah.
I think we haven't seen. Sorry, we obviously through the chair we haven't seen the safety audit and the results of that yet, and let's have a look at that. It's likely that anything that comes from that would be a minor piece of work. So I don't want to suggest what that could be, but line marking or other things like that. So that's the sort of stuff that we would do under existing budgets and just do should it come through that safety audit. And as Kevin says, longer term, then that's a different conversation.
Councillor Taylor?
Yeah, there's a lot of comment on social media about that I'm fielding calls fairly regularly because of my background, and I've basically said nothing at the moment, so I'll wait. I'll maybe have a chat to you offline about that.
Absolutely, thank you. Thanks for being offline.
You can be the lead. Project sponsor. No, that's all good, cool. But there has been, even though that commentary, there has been some quite good suggestions coming in too. So, no problem. Thanks, Kevin. Wastewater. Oh, sorry.
It's just been raised. How come it's 59 over the budget?
$59, sorry.
Cents.
59 cents. I can't answer that one, sorry.
Right, wastewater.
Okay. I suppose I'm on page 212 of your agenda. I think I'm going to need glasses soon because I'm struggling to read my notes.
It happened. You're not 50 yet, AQ?
Oh,
45?
It just happened.
It just happened.
It's just happened. My eyes are just gone.
I'll tell you what happened. $2 shop. There you go.
So just a highlight on the Kinloch wastewater land disposal system. Again, we've been in discussions with the golf course there. That's where we're going to dispose of the majority of the wastewater. They're wanting us to leave the summer alone and do work over next year. Again, we've just engaged the people there doing the treatment plant there. So this is likely to happen at the back end of our financial year. And just a heads up now that it's probably likely to carry over to the beginning of the following year. But certainly by the back end of this financial year, it will be committed and in a contract. Turangi wastewater pond, balance pond, just for the new elected members, This is one that we've got on hold. We've had it on hold for a little while because we're working through with Turangi-Tongariro in particular around the wastewater disposal for Turangi and also about the wastewater treatment plant, its final location or a location for the plant there. So there's no use spending money on a substantive piece of money on a new balance pond unless we get in trouble with our compliance, and currently we believe we can deal with compliance through other projects. And just on the back end of the last one for wastewater, we had enforcement action. So this is from Waikato Regional Council. This is just a heads up to elected members to understand that we have multiple conditions on all of our treatment plants and our water tanks. We probably have, like I said before, 18 water plants, water tanks, 12 wastewater discharges, consents, and spray irrigation consents. Each of them are full of possibly up to a couple of dozen conditions that we have to monitor on, and every now and then we don't meet all of those requirements, and this is the Waikato Regional Council's way of telling us that we need to do better in some of those spaces. So we have a program to get our way through those. This is nothing more than a formal warning, letter of direction. They sound quite formal, but they're a file note, the way they use it. We haven't got into any prosecutions or fines or abatement notices, which are the more serious of the enforcement. These are things for us to work on, and we generally work on that with Waikato Regional Council.
Solid waste.
So this is the landfill and transfer stations. Everything's pretty much on track. I will suggest that we're tracking with more waste going into the landfill, into Broadlands, than what we have had last year. And last year we went over what we predicted that we needed. It's a target that we have basically to try and lengthen the life of the landfill. But currently we can't be in control of how much waste is coming in through there. It doesn't help that our recycling has been limited now because of what's going through, what China is not accepting. So we're actually taking more over the gate than what we have in the past. And we think that trend will continue. We're pretty active in the waste minimisation space though. We have a waste minimisation plan and we're working our way through that. And stormwater, pretty much everything's on track there. There is one project there, is 2 Mile Bay Boat Ramp, a quality improvement device. Just a reminder, we took that money and we utilised that for Lake Terrace when we had the opportunity there to put a stormwater improvement device in. So that job won't be happening this financial year. We'll have to wait until we get the right amount of money, likely to be next year. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks very much, Kevin. Appreciate that.
So I get the final wrap-up on economic development. You've seen the presentations this morning from our CCOs and external agencies, which hopefully gave you a bit of a feel for the breadth of work they do. We're full hog and we're beginning to get full bore, I guess, into our event season now. Cycle Challenge this weekend, and it sort of ramps up from there. So the team are really, really busy from now until sort of March. You've got an item on the airport terminal coming up, obviously, at the end. And financially, it's pretty stable, this, because it's all tends to be known values in there, so you won't see many financial variances in there over the period of reporting.
Cool. Thanks very much, John. Any questions on economic development? Appreciate that. It's all pretty positive. Very good. Mr. CEO, any final comments? Obviously, business as usual. The numbers are good. Finances are good, so in pretty good space. So obviously the workshops on Thursday will just update us on all that sort of thing too.
Absolutely, and if any of the councillors have any questions about any of those projects, then come and see us or drop me a note and we'll make sure we can cover those off.
Great, thank you very much. Okay. Suggested recommendation there that we received the council report. Did obviously new councillors find that handy, that once each of the group managers coming in, I think it's great we can sort of have any burning topics they can ask as well, so appreciate the leniency there. All right, move it please. Councillor Park, seconded by Councillor Williamson. All those in favour, please say aye. It's against, it's carried. Thank you very much. 5.12, council engagements, December 2019 and conference opportunities. Yep.
So, Your Worship, we've got the Zone 2 meeting on Friday the 29th of November, which is at Broadlands, so don't know if a couple of councillors would like to go to that.
Yep. Is there? Okay, any volunteers to go to Zone 2 on Friday? Councillor? Yeah, no? Okay, I think it's pretty important that I go to the first one, so I'm happy to go.
Thank you.
So there's zone, we have regional, we have all sorts of things that you'll get used to. Does that mean? So zone is made up as what? How many councils?
15 maybe?
15 councils, so all pretty much Taupo North and and the idea is to form remits or suggestions of remits to go to the national body. So I'll go and happy to report back. Any other changes of dates here, Tina?
No.
No? Okay. All right, could I have a move, please?
And there's just one final one, sorry, there, in terms of the regional induction.
Oh, sorry.
On the 13th of December, so
on that one, if I can, Your Worship, I'd actually ask that everybody who can go does go to that one. It's quite important just to get an understanding of the network of organisations we're in. This is the regional induction for elected members on Friday the 13th of December in Hamilton.
That's in Hamilton too, is it?
So it's only transport, and obviously we'll have council cars. We're contributing 1/12 of the cost of the day, but it's nothing.
Councillor Guy?
I just noticed that the venue had changed. So I have Carapiro in my...
Changed due to size. The invite is to all elected members throughout the Waikato, so the numbers have got quite large.
When you say regional induction, it's not the regional council.
So it's the regional council and the other 11 territorial authorities in the Waikato, so all councils in the Waikato region. So it's all of their elected members have been invited, and we have a whole lot of shared groups and organisations ranging from economic development agencies through to other CCOs, joint CCOs that we have, regional transport organisations, civil defence organisations. So this is about having the relevant people from those organisations come in and explaining what they are, and then there's over lunch a stall process where you can go and have conversations with those people to get to ask any questions and things like that. It'll be a good day.
You've talked it up. You've talked it up big time.
We'll organise it. I got to.
There you go. Rightio.
Just one
Councillor
question.
Kingy.
Yeah, one question, Your Worship. I just wondered if we've got any idea of how many elected members are coming down for that tour of the southern part. So pre our community board meeting. I see that's when we've got our tour occurring down there. Do we have any sense?
Same day.
No, sorry. This
is
on
just something different.
Yeah, this
well,
is on Tuesday.
just before that time, have we got any takers for the 13th, or can we decide that on the 10th of December? Yeah. Can they live stream it? No. We can now. We've got a standing orders.
It's the same day as the citizenship ceremony, which I think needs to be considered.
It's out of it then. Thanks for that. Okay, we'll perhaps leave that one just blank at the moment until we get the late starters on that. We can always approve that on the 10th. Yep. But if you want to take your own car up, do you still get mileage? Yeah. Just to clarify if someone's got other stuff. Yeah, sure. Yes, sure. Okay, right. Very good. So we'll do 1 and 2. If I move it, so Tom, sorry, you had a question.
Oh, it was just to get a show you Worship of how many were coming down for the tour of the southern part. So that's the facility tour for the Turangi.
I think everyone is coming, I'm pretty sure. There might be a possibility I'll be a little bit late. Councillor Leonard's away.
I've put in apologies, Dairy Environmental Leaders Forum in Wellington.
Sorry. We've just got to go to a Paupiri, the wetlands out at Wairaki, so before I come, so I'm thinking, is it possible to do the town part, whoever organises it, the town part last? So I could join? Yeah, something like that, we'll work it out.
Through the chair. Through the chair.
Everyone's coming, Tom. Yep, Councillor Williamson.
Did we get the email about the change of timing for the Te Kaupo Te Kanapanapa? There's a slight change in the time, isn't there? Or is it on the 4th, within those hours? I had an email this
check that. Have you had an email about it?
Check that one out.
Check that. You should have been. All right, thanks very much. Recommendation up there. Councillor Taylor has moved, seconded by Councillor Guy. Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried.